So at that point, I'm ready to start taking some questions. I know I've taken up 20, 30 minutes of your time here, but what kind of questions do you have of me? And I'll answer anything you got, because I got nothing to hide.
Well, I've only been in Shelby County about a year now, so I don't have the background and stories of who's did what to whom and all of that kind of stuff. I was intrigued by the fact that when a new sheriff came in, you didn't feel like you could work well with that person or under their administration, and so you left. You didn't stay and just cause issues and things like that. Right. So I'm impressed by that.
I never made it public until I got called out on some things, and I said, look, you guys got to know the truth.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what was it that you saw in this new sheriff that came in that you just couldn't work under that kind of leadership?
Okay, so your question is, why did I leave the Shelby County Sheriff's Office in 2012? What were the things I saw that I couldn't work under that leadership? And that's a good question. I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus. And I certainly don't want to do that, because that's not my character either. I will tell you this, and this is something I just recently said online, which is one of the biggest reasons is because I was working the road by myself, taking out a unit whenever I wanted to, weekdays, weeknights, weekends, and helping out whatever shift that was working at that particular time. They were used to me coming in, glad to see me. You take Central Section, you take East Section, Jordan, we got you, you know? I did that for 15 years down there. So I knew those folks. They knew me. Came in one day after the new administration, just shortly afterwards, and they said, oh, no, you can't. You got to talk to the boss because they've grounded the reserves. I said, grounded? What's that mean? So I went and talked to them. And they said, well, yeah, you know, you're just not going to be able to go out and work road patrol because we can't afford the fuel. Now, the fuel wasn't exorbitant back in 2012. I mean, it wasn't over $3 a gallon. But they said, we can't afford the fuel. That was the reasoning they came up with. And I said, are you kidding me? You're paying these guys to work this shift $25 an hour, 8 hours. I'm free. The finances just don't make sense. You're telling me you can't afford a $20 tank of gas to have a third road deputy out there taking care of problems. That's the problem? And they said, yeah, I guess that's it. So I said, well, you know, that doesn't make any sense to me. There must be something else going on here, something else at play. So I said, fine. And then the sheriff said, look, stick around 6 months. This will probably change, you know, everything will be fine. So I said, fine, I'll do that. I stuck around. I worked the little shifts here and there for whatever they needed. Visitation, where you had folks coming in for jail. I did a lot of visitation for them. I did some other ball games, whatever. 6 months went by, and nothing. I went back in. I said, Sheriff, you know, I'd like to start working for you again, because I came out to do this as a second career. I came out to help people, not to be the guy that only worked 8 hours a month. I love those folks because you got to have that kind of manpower. But I want to give a whole lot more. Let me have that opportunity. And he says, no, he says, we just can't afford a cost fuel. Fine. So that's when that, amongst many other things that I won't go into, came up, and I said, look, it's just time for me to exit. Because I could. And it's an integrity issue. To me, more than anything, remember I said honesty, integrity, transparency. It's an integrity thing. I had too much integrity to stay and do something that I knew didn't make good common sense. So I had the ability to get up and go. And that's when I went and saw Sheriff Matt Melvin over in Champaign County, who, you know, open arms, heck yeah, we'd love to have you, right? And at the same time, Botkins, chief I've known up there for many, many years, just very ecstatic. He said, really? Come on, you start tomorrow. You've been a known capacity in Shelby County for a lot of years. You start tomorrow. And I'm so glad I did. You know, we all have journeys. And this particular one took me in a different direction. I'm so glad I did. Because of the young men and women that I got to train up in Botkins. I mean, Botkins it's a small village. So it's not very busy. You know, I was telling you earlier about Butler County. mean, gosh, I was running call to call to call, right? Crash here, domestic here, a theft there. Up there, you might get one call a shift, but other than that, you're monitoring traffic, you're stopping and saying hello. It's small town policing, which is a little different, but it's great stuff. You have the time and opportunity to talk to people. And you have the time and opportunity to train someone. It's not rush, 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 you're in the fire. It's let's sit down and talk and go through. So I created a great training program for these youngsters up there. We put them through the training program. It's an equivalent to a 3-week training program. They come in and ride along, and probably the second time they ride, and guess which seat they're in? Mm-hmm. They're not on the passenger seat because I want them driving. Now, that's a pretty scary thing. It's like being a driving instructor, right? All of a sudden you're like, I don't have a brake over here. But you trust them, right? You gotta build that trust with them. So you get to learn a lot about some of the youngsters and their values and what's important to them, and guide them and mentor them and help them to go to the next stage, because we know that they're not going to be a full-time police officer in Botkins, at least not very long, because a lot of the youngsters want to work where there is action. I get that, right? It's just one of those things. So I've been fortunate enough to train dozens of young men and women. They stick around for a while, they do the job, they fulfill the requirements we have, help us fill our shift, and then if they find full-time opportunity somewhere, we gladly say, we'll give you recommendations based upon the fact we've given you good training. I just had one last week. Started the Ohio State Highway Patrol Police Academy. Great youngster. And I'll say this too, probably shouldn't, but first few days go by, he gets to come home on weekends, and he says, I said, how's it going? He says, oh, it's rough. I don't know. He says, I don't know if I can do this or not. Did I say, oh, sure, you can do this, or it's okay? No. You ask Laura. I jumped on him. I got so, well, I won't go there, but I jumped all over him and said, look, you will do this. You got it in you. I know you do. I've seen it. And I made him promise me that he would finish the job that he set out to do, because if you make a commitment, by golly, honor that commitment. Do what you're supposed to do. After that conversation, he says, yep. And guess where he went Monday? Back to school. The end of this week, calls me back again. He says, you're the boss. He says, I'm feeling a lot better about this now. Which I knew it was only that first couple day jitter thing, right? Where they try to get you to remove yourself because you don't have what it takes. I knew he had what it took. I've got folks that went to city of Dayton, worked in Dayton. One of them's a homicide detective down there now. Great young man. Folks that are all over this country. One in West Virginia is a state patrolman. I got another one that went to Ohio State Patrol. A couple that went to police departments across Ohio. So they started their journey with me, and now they are prepared for whatever else life brings them. And that, to me, is such an important thing. I know I rambled on about your question, which was, why did I leave? I left because I knew I needed to, and I had integrity. But I'm glad I left, right? Because I'm not playing politics. I'm not playing that stuff. I'm doing what's right, and what's right for everyone else around me, because that's who I am, and I'm a leader.